Okay, so let's see. Let me pull up my presentation here. Now, when I taught my salespeople, my students, is when you give a presentation, you've got 30 seconds to get their attention, 30 seconds to get them to think, wow, tell me more. And too often salespeople, they go into someone's office and they say, thank you for meeting with me. We've been in business for 20 years and we have several different programs and products that we offer. And I just wanted to talk to you about your printing needs today. And I wonder if you can by this time, the guy's already fallen asleep. You've got to get their attention and instantly. So now what I have done with Excellence Quest is something that's never been done before by any other company ever. And so it's very unique, it's very different. And yet still I need to catch their attention. So my clientele is a company that has anywhere from 1 to 5 salespeople because usually they don't have a sales manager. They can't afford to hire a sales manager when they only have 1 salesman or 2 salespeople or whatever. And so the owner ends up being the sales manager and they never do a good job at it because they're trying to run their business. And so I startled them a little bit when I come in and we would do a cold call. We would just walk into their office and say, I'm here for the sales manager job. And they're looking a little puzzled and they say, well, I didn't run an ad for a sales manager job. I don't need a sales manager job. I don't need a sales manager. And so I would say, I'd like to just swap you business cards. And after 30 seconds, if you haven't gotten if I haven't gotten your interest, then I'll leave. But I'll only stay here if you've asked me to stay. And they say, okay, all right, what? So they give me their business card and I take their business card and I write 3 numbers on it. Let's just say this is their business card. Can you read that? 1, 2, 3. There you go. So I write 3 numbers and I said, now what I'd like you to do is just circle one of those numbers. Now this is on their business card, right? So they circle one of the numbers. Okay. You see that? All right. And then I proceed with my presentation. Let's go ahead and start it up here. And I say, okay, I'm going to make 3 predictions as your sales manager. And first of all, they're thinking, I don't need a sales manager. But here's my 3 predictions. 1 is I thought you would choose number 2. And the second prediction is your salespeople are going to dramatically increase their sales over the next 12 months. And my third prediction is I think you will want to hire me. So now in 30 seconds, I've got that guy thinking, all right. And he sits back and he says, tell me more. I'm interested. I've got his attention. So that's kind of how I start this on this presentation. Anyway, so now we continue on. First, I'm going to go back to the Great Depression because there's something that we didn't hear about the Great Depression. What we heard about was the stock market crashing in 1929 and businesses, failing and people lining up clear down the street and around a corner for a soup and bread for the day because it was a doom and gloom time. But what we didn't realize was deep in the business sections of those same newspapers, it talked about companies that were flourishing, gaining a 47% increase or 200% increase or 50% increase. And these companies were doing extremely well during the worst economic period in the history of the United States of America. And what they discovered was if people aren't going to come in and buy from us, we're going to send salespeople out there to sell our products and services. And that's what really gave rise to the outside salesperson. Now, today, everybody has outside salespeople. We have them all over the place. It's a common thing. But still, a lot of businesses are suffering because their salespeople aren't doing that well. The success of any business depends on sales. And much of the success of sales depends on the salespeople. So we're dependent and at the mercy of the salespeople in the company. Would you agree with that? And yes, they do agree. So why don't salespeople succeed as they should? Well, there's 4 reasons why they don't succeed as they should. One is they lack the motivation. They're just not motivated on a regular basis to get out there and hustle. And they lack the discipline. They are motivated, maybe. They want to succeed. They want to make more money, but they just don't have the discipline to do what it takes to get themselves out there in the field and make those calls. They lack the sales skills. Like the first guy I was just telling you about comes in and just bores them to death for the first 5 minutes. And they don't have the product knowledge. They don't understand their product very well, and they don't take the time to learn the product that what they sell. So these are the 4 reasons why they don't succeed as they should. Do you have this problem with any of your salespeople? And then they go into, oh yeah, I do. And they start telling me about Bob and Steve and different guys that they got working for them or whatever. Yeah, you run an ad and you want to hire a salesperson, and this guy interviews and he says, yes, sir, I was the top salesperson in the last 5 places I worked at last month. All right. Yeah. He looks good on the surface, but what's his shadow saying? What's he doing when you're not paying attention? He's not doing anything. And you see down there the suitcases, there's his briefcase. I mean, he's got little flies buzzing out of it. Got nothing going on. And yet he says, oh boss, I'm working really hard. I'm doing lots of stuff. I'm really out there working hard. And we don't know whether he really is or not. And that's kind of the challenge. Much of the success of the salesperson depends on how well they're managed, and that's part of the challenge. We hire them, and we can't just say, okay, you got the job, get out there and sell, and good luck. And then now we're back to our own problems. We need to manage them effectively. So let's talk about a typical sales manager. Now, I know you don't have a sales manager, but if you did, you know how much time the average sales manager spends with their salespeople per week? This was a survey that was taken by Sales and Marketing Management magazine, actually back, quite a few years ago. But you know what they discovered? The average sales manager spends less than 30 minutes a week with each of their salespeople. Now, if you get 3 salespeople, there's an hour and a half a week. What's the sales manager doing with the rest of his time, you wonder? Get out there and sell, 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 and good luck, Jones. Yeah, that's the kind of sales management most managers are doing. Well, whether he's practicing his golf putt or he's doing stuff, they're always doing stuff. They're busy taking care of problems, or they're actually throwing a box in the back of their car and doing a delivery because the delivery boy didn't show up, or they had a problem with a breakdown of the truck or whatever. And a sales manager is doing all kinds of quasi things. That's really not a job for a sales manager. But what he needs to do is what it says right there on that door. Sales manager means I'll translate that for you. That means to manage salespeople. That's what it means. But they don't do a great job at it. And so people spend a lot of money wasting their time hiring a sales manager when he doesn't do a great job. But I can be your sales manager on a part-time basis because you've only got 2 salespeople, right? Well, I can work for you as your sales manager on a part-time basis and save you a lot of money, and I will do more than a full-time sales manager would do. Let's see if I'm right. I'll show you. I'm also your business partner. Now, I'm not going to have any ownership in your company, but I think as a business owner, and I think for you and help you in running your business and making this business flourish with sales as I work with your sales team. Much more than what a normal sales manager would do. They don't think for the business owner and think as a partner, but that is how I work with you. Now, let's just say you did want to run an ad for a sales manager. You say, okay, well, we do want a sales manager. This is the reason why you don't hire one, right? Because first of all, you say, well, here's the requirements. I want somebody with 25 years of successful sales and management experience. I mean, I want a real pro, somebody who's really good at this, okay? And they got to have professional sales training skills, very important, and they've got to have the ability to motivate salespeople, right? And by the way, we're not going to give you any health benefits or retirement. You got to pay all your own expenses. There's no company car. There's no car allowance. You got to pay it all by yourself. Now, if you ran an ad for that, how much would you have to pay a sales manager? Now, this was a survey that was done in the 1990s, but it would take about $9,000 a month to hire a sales manager, a good sales manager who really knows what he's doing. But you've only got 2 salespeople, so it doesn't warrant the expense to pay $9,000 a month to just watch over 2 guys. But I could be your sales manager for you, and if you have 2 salespeople for $2,600 a month, I could be your sales manager. And like I said, I will do more than an average sales manager would do. Someone who hires that $9,000 a month sales manager still will not be able to do what I can do for you. And I'm going to show you how. All right. And so this is just a scale depending on how many salespeople a company has. If they have 1 salesperson, then I'm their sales manager for $1,400 a month, and so on. So We were talking about the 4 things that a salesperson doesn't do, well. What does a sales manager need to do? If they lack the motivation, well, gee, this is real hard, huh? You need to motivate them. If they lack the discipline, we need to discipline them. No, we don't discipline them. We hold them accountable and monitor their activities. We don't whip with the discipline with a stick or a whip, but we do hold them accountable and monitor their activities. And they lack the sales skills, well, we need to train them, don't we? And if they lack the product knowledge, then that's going to be up to you to train them on the product knowledge, because you're in a business that is different than all the other clients I have. And so that's one thing where we have you get involved into product knowledge, because you know your business really well. I work as a coach. Now, coaching today is very, unheard of in the business world. Now, this is, by the way, what I told them way back then. Now, coaching is common, but what I told them back then is coaching is uncommon in the business world. But if the coach, let's look at the picture down here on the left. The coach is telling the runner, okay, I want you to run around the track, and I'm going to check your time there, and okay, good job. And he's going to push him and drive him and drive him harder than he would normally do. Now if the guy just says, I'm going to run around the track by myself, and he runs around the track and he says, okay, I'm tired, I'm done. But the coach says, what? No, I want 2 more laps. 2 more laps. The coach drives us and pushes us farther than we would normally push ourselves. Somebody goes to a weight loss center. They want to lose weight. And why do they hire someone to help them, a fitness coach? Because they're saying, I need someone to tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat. Give me those little packages. That's all I'll eat. And then I'll come back in. And if I haven't lost my 2 pounds for the week, you slap me around a little bit and then keep me more motivated. That's what they do, right? In the football example, the coach is, half the size of the football player. Doesn't mean that the football player is better than the coach. The coach has this knowledge and experience and knows exactly what that football player needs to do. Or if it's learning an instrument, same thing. Okay, I want you to practice this, and then next week come back and pass it off to me. We hold them accountable. We motivate them. This is what a sales coach does with a salesperson. So that's what I'm going to be, is your sales coach. Now, this is one of my coaches that used to work for me, and he's working with a salesperson one-on-one, and we're there on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, holding them accountable, training them, and coaching them. And I'm going to explain to you how we do that. How do we do the training? Well, we have monthly seminars. So every month we have 12 different subjects. And so the salespeople all come together, and I'll be working with your 2 salespeople. And I work with about 20 salespeople, and I spend 2 hours a week with each salesperson. That's a 40-hour week for me. 2 hours a week with 20 salespeople each is 40 hours. So that's all I'm going to spend with your salespeople, and yet I'm going to do more than a full-time sales manager working 40 hours for you would be able to do. So can your sales manager provide the sales training seminars? Probably not, but that's what we have. We have sales training seminars. One-time seminars, by the way, have very little effect. People go to a seminar, they get really excited, and Zig Ziglar would come into town, and they would pay their ticket and go listen to Zig Ziglar, and boy, they're bouncing off the walls and they're ready to conquer the world. And then 3 days later, they're back to their same bad habits, doing the same thing. And there's the books collecting cobwebs and dust in the corner of his desk, and he's back to his same old bad habits. I thought I had him, boss. Any tips on how to close? And there's the books closing the sale and everything else. And the salespeople, has his own gizmos and gadgets and party hats and whatever else he's trying to do. Salespeople use all kinds of gimmicks and stupid things that are not effective in closing and making the sale. And so we need to train them how to effectively sell to a prospect, so they're professional and they're able to turn that into a sale. So we do that with our monthly seminars. There's over 50 elements that makes a salesperson a professional salesperson, whether it's cold calling or developing contents or listening skills or questioning skills or overcoming objections or time management or presentation skills, holding on to the price. There's just so many things that a salesperson needs to learn. How does he learn all this at a one-time seminar? Well, it's impossible. And so what we've done is we've broken that down into a sales training university. And it's just like someone going to school where they're going to get their degree, and they go to the university on a regular basis, and the professor is going to tell them what to do this week, and he holds them accountable, and he quizzes them on it and gives them their grade. That's what we do on a regular basis. So they come to the monthly seminars, and then here's all the training materials that we have. You can see there's 12 big binders there. And this is the $3,500 value, by the way. Each of your 2 salespeople will receive this whole package, and that is for the $2,600 a month that you invest in hiring me as your sales manager. Again, this is something a regular sales manager wouldn't even have in his back pocket. but I'm providing you with this for each of your salespeople. Now, if you look at the front one there, it's in a binder that's opened up, and you can see that there's 4 little booklets there on the right, fanned to the right, and then there's a big workbook, and then there's some CDs and cassette tapes. And so we give the salespeople a weekly cassette tape and a CD and a booklet. They follow the instructions in there from what they learned in the seminar. The big booklet, the workbook there, is what they go through at the seminar. We spend 4 hours once a month in the seminar, and the salesperson goes through that with all of the salespeople that are in our program. And so this makes it easier, bite-sized material, so they don't just go to a one-time seminar and then it's gone. You know, even Zig Ziglar, who was a good friend of mine, said, I know that when I blow into town, I do a seminar and everybody's bouncing off the wall saying, man, I'm going to become a millionaire by next Tuesday. And of course, he knows that when he goes away, they're going to go right back to their same bad habits, forget everything that he taught them. But it's up to them to decide whether they're going to really apply that stuff or not. Well, what we do is we actually bring this piece by piece to the salesperson so that they will apply these things and learn these things one thing at a time. And we have weekly group sales meetings, and I'll meet with your 2 salespeople and also with you, the company owner. And we will have a weekly group meeting, and we will go through the training, the continued training of a different subject every single month for the next 52 weeks. We do that on a full, then by the end of each month, we master that sales technique, and maybe we're working on how to give a powerful presentation, or maybe we're learning how to close the sale, or maybe we are trying to learn about personality types and how differently to different personality types, or whatever it might be. And the salesperson master those techniques, and then we can move on to the next subject for the next month. Does a sales manager do this? He doesn't have the materials. He doesn't have the tools to provide this. He's just there telling salespeople, hey, get out there and sell, 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 and good luck, Jones, while he's practicing his golf. Or he's out there screaming and yelling at his salespeople, you're not selling enough, now get out there and work harder. And that's not motivating when you browbeat them and put them down for not working hard enough. So there's got to be a system that does this, that makes it effectively. So now what we do before we get started, actually, we have a sales skills assessment. We test the salespeople and we determine what their selling skills ability is. Now you have one salesperson that's been in sales for 2 weeks, another one's been in for 2 years, another one's been in for 20 years. So they're all going to have different levels of selling experience. And so it's an 8-hour assessment that we do, and we determine, what their skills are. And then we have a 16-hour accelerated course. This is a one-time accelerated course just to get the salespeople started. And we develop, we introduce some software to them, which I'll be explaining to you after this presentation. And we teach them the software to get them going and all that. So this is the one $950 investment. So for the $2,600 that you invest per month with me, that's going to be monthly for the next 12 months. But the first month will be an additional 950 times 2, which will be $1,800 or $1,900 actually for the initial getting started and testing the sales being doing the selling course. Aside from that, there are no other expenses, and everything else I show you on this is going to be covered in this investment that you make. So now we talked about training. Let's talk about monitoring. Sometimes you wonder what the salesperson's really up to out there sometimes. Yeah, boss, looks like this appointment's going to take twice as long as I expected. You see, he's at the theater there. It's a double feature. And, well, there was all joke, that went around when I was in sales that if you ever went to a matinee, a theater in the middle of the day, all you'd see are white shirts scattered around a room. And when I said white shirts, it's because back in the 1980s when I was in sales, salespeople wore a white shirt and a tie. That was the way it was back then. Now it's different, but it was always white shirts in the theater. And that's because the boss kicks him out of the office and says, get out there and work. You're not doing anything in here. And he doesn't feel like working today. And he goes home and his spouse says, hey, get out there and work. We got to pay our bills. And okay. And he doesn't feel like doing anything. So what does he do? He goes to the theater, or he goes to the bar and has a few drinks, or whatever he does. Or does what we call the star performer. Star performer is a guy who just drives clear over here, then down here, then up here, then over there, then back down there in a star shape, and pretending that he's working. I'm checking things out. I'm just looking around, seeing where there's prospects. And they drive and drive and drive and waste a lot of time. And then you're paying for his gas allowance to do all that wasted driving. Oh, it's a shame. Somebody's got to hold this salesperson accountable. See, it's not what you expect, but what you inspect that gets the results. Yes, you expect your salesperson to work hard and sell and do all that. But what we need to do is inspect what they're doing. We need to hold them accountable. We need to hold them accountable every week on their time management. Hold them accountable to their follow-ups. Have you followed up on this customer and this one and this one and this one, all these prospects? Let me see how many quotes you've done. I want to see your quotes. I want to take a look at it. And we just play the numbers. You call a certain amount of, if you call out 100 people, you're going to make a certain amount of sales. Calling 500 people, you do the math. Yeah, more sales, you know. You just work with the salespeople and hold them accountable. Does the sales manager do this? He should, but does he? Most often not. You know, they're too busy doing everything. They don't have that rhythm. But we have the rhythm in what we're doing. And I've only got 2 hours to do what I do with your salesperson, and I get it done, and I get a lot done in just 2 hours time. And that's why we get the results we do with the salespeople. Now let's talk about how do we motivate salespeople. What do we do to motivate them? Well, sometimes they just need encouragement when things are going lousy in their life. You know, sometimes they're going through a divorce, or they're going through money problems, or they're going through health problems, or whatever it might be. And everyone's busy, and the employer's busy, and he says, okay, just don't bother me, just take care of all this stuff. And so who's there to really lend an ear? And that's what we're trained to do. We're trained to do that, to listen, to understand their situation, to understand what's bringing them down and what's slowing them down, so we can help encourage that and turn that into positive energy so that they will be successful. Not only do they need encouragement when things are going lousy, but they need praise when things are going well. Sometimes a salesperson walks in and says, look at this, boss, I finally landed this huge sale. And of course, you're busy taking care of problems with your own company. The ship's sinking. You're thinking, okay, well, fine. When did you tell them we'd have that ready? 2 weeks. We can't get that ready by 2 weeks. What are you doing? And before you know it, you're biting their head off for doing something that they're supposed to, they're proud of. And now they're just kind of feeling bad. So that's what we do. I'm your sales manager. I work with your salespeople, and I'm praising them and encouraging them and keeping them motivated so they will want to keep working hard and moving forward. We work with them on their goals. We've heard goals before. Goals has been done to death. Yeah. But when I ask salespeople what are their goals, they say, yeah, I want to make more money. I'd like to get a new car someday. Very vague. We help them map out their life with them. And I'm going to help you accomplish. You want to get those wakeboarders or jet skis? I'm going to help you get it. You want to get that car? I'm going to make sure you get that. You want that motor home? You want to get a nicer house? I'm here, and I'm going to ensure that you get it. And you know what? They realize that's true. And they have confidence in me more than they have confidence in themselves. They think, you think I could really accomplish this? And I tell them, okay, here's what's really humanly possible. That's what I was telling about the software that we do. We show them what is humanly possible and how much money could you actually make. And we can't determine that for 2 hours. It takes us 2 hours to put all this information into the computer to determine what is humanly possible. But when it tells us what's humanly possible, and they're making $3,000 a month, and it shows us it's possible for you to make $9,000 per month, they are motivated. And then it shows them, maps it out. Software points out, here's all you need to do. You do this week, and that will come. Next week, you do this, and that will come. You will have your car by this time. You will have the motorhome. You'll have the house. These are the things you're going to have. So we work with them on their goals, and we ensure that they achieve their goals. How many business owners actually stop and take time to get involved in a salesperson's life to ask them, well, what are your goals? Sales managers don't even do that very much. We do that on a regular basis because we know how powerful that is and how that turns into enthusiasm, and they're practically electrified, ready to get out there and sell to do that. Now, another thing to motivate is recognition and incentives. We all have an ego, or we wouldn't brush our teeth and comb our hair in the morning, right? And we need to satisfy that ego with salespeople. They have an ego, and they need to be encouraged with that. And so what we do at our seminars, if we get out $1,000 of awards every month to the top salespeople. And so this is an old picture of me. You can see my hair was dark back then. It's not so gray as it is now. But we used to give out awards every month to the top salespeople. Now I was telling you about, the individual, the runner who decides to run around the track. And he says, I'm going to run around the track 3 times. He does 1 lap and he says, I'm tired. That's it. I'm done. But the coach is there pushing them. And he says, no, I want 2 more laps and then you can hit the showers. The coach drives us and pushes us beyond what we really want to do ourselves. But let's just push that a little bit further. Let's just say, okay, whoever, 20 people running around the track, and the top 5 of those 20 people that run around the track, I'm going to give you $1,000. Now, how hard are they going to push themselves? They're running around the track and someone's running and he's got 2 people in front of him. He's thinking, I'm going to pass that guy. And he looks behind himself and someone's coming up behind him and he pushes himself farther. So that guy doesn't catch up with him. That's what we do. That's how we operate with incentives and contests, don't we? You know, when we're competing with other people, we drive ourselves, we push ourselves more than we would normally do on our own. And so you're pushing yourself to beat that person in front of you. And that's what we do every single month. And the salespeople are now leaping out of their skin just about so they can win the contest. And by accident, they made a whole lot more sales, which makes you happy. His spouse is happy because now they can get that car or they can get that motor home. And the salesperson doesn't even care because he just wants to win first place. It's kind of an ego thing sometimes, but that drives us. So let's harness that power. Let's harness the power of motivation to keep those salespeople working hard as they possibly can, and they're enjoying it while they're doing it. Instead of being beaten on the head by their boss saying, hey, you're not working hard enough, get out there and sell, or you'll lose your job. Now, there's another thing we need to do is we have incentives for an annual trip. And this is for everybody. Now, getting back to my example again, the guy runs around the track. He says, I'm going to run 3 laps. He does 1 lap, says, I'm tired. But if he's got a coach, the coach is going to push him to run the 3 laps, right? That's a step up by having the coach. The second step up is now he's competing with 20 other people, and he's going to push himself harder than he's ever pushed before. But let's figure another thing on that. You're always going to have somebody in first place, and you will always have somebody in 20th place. And there are going to be some people that can't take those people that are in first place. They just don't have it. They don't have the experience. They don't have the skill. And they get discouraged and they think, why try? I can never win. And they get discouraged and then they quit or they slow down. We've got to have something that drives everybody. So what we do is we say, okay, you run around that track and I'm going to time you. Okay, there's your time. Now you run around that track and you beat your own time by X, and then I'm going to give you a reward. So now he's timing every one of those people, and someone runs around that track in 4 minutes. Someone else runs around that track in 9 minutes. But the guy who goes around in 4 minutes beats his own score and he runs it in, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. He gets an award. The guy who is running around the track at 9 minutes, if he does it in 8 minutes and 30 seconds, he gets an award. So as long as they can beat their own score, they can be rewarded. And now they're not discouraged by anybody else who might be a hot dog out there outperforming them. So what we do is we take the salesperson's last 12 months in sales in volume of what he sold. So when I start working with you, and let's just say I start working with you January 1st, and the salesperson has sold X amount of volume over the last 12 months. We're going to take that volume, and this is where we plug it into our software, and it's automatically going to calculate a certain volume that salesperson has to sell. Now, you've got 2 salespeople. Let's say you had 5. You had 5 salespeople, and they all sell a different amount of sales volume. They would all have to sell a different amount to be able to qualify to go on the trip. And they would have to sell a certain amount more, and the amount more is that you're going to get back double the investment that you make in hiring me. So you pay $2,600 a month to hire me to be your sales manager, and I'm going to make sure that salesperson is bringing in another $5,200 in profit, those 2 salespeople, in profit to you. So now we're paying for ourselves. So I don't even cost you any money. It's like free because we're going to get you back double the investment that you make. So now every one of those salespeople go on the trip, and we pay for the salesperson and their spouses. This is just one of the trips that we've done. We mostly usually do a cruise, although we've done land trips as well. But this is just an example of one of our rewards where everybody got to go on the trip with their spouse. And people asking me, well, how many of your salespeople that you worked with actually make it on the trip? All of them. I ensure that every one of them sell and succeed in their goals so that they are earning the trip. And if they earn the trip by accident, you're happy because you just got back double the investment that you made. So now everybody's happy. So to effectively motivate, monitor, and train salespeople, we have a warranty. It's a warranty that you're going to get double the gross profit increase in sales. So like I said, if you invest $2,600 a month, you're going to get back $5,200 a month in profit based on what they're doing. So this is 1,400, it would equal 2,800, vice versa, and so on. We've had national recognition for over 20 years in newspapers and magazines all over the place. Nobody does what we do. It's never been duplicated. Some people have tried to duplicate it and they haven't been successful with it because they haven't got the system that we've got. But nevertheless, this is the kind of results we've had. And as your business partner and sales coach, I will help you build a team of selling machines. Okay, let me stop this.